Hi, thanks for stopping by. I'm Donovan from Dreaming of Your Next Hook Set. In today's video, my papa will be demonstrating better options for hook placement in live bait and cut bait. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this video, and don't forget to hit the notifications bell for more up-and-coming videos. Thank you, and thank you for stopping by, and enjoy.
The right size of hook for your live bait and your cut bait, you're already on your way to catching that trophy catfish. Don't cheat yourself by not going outside the box. Do not just stick to traditional ways of hooking your baits. Go outside the box a little bit. Good evening, y'all, from Dreaming of Your Next Hook Set, Jeff Garcia in Rockford, Illinois, 90 miles west from Chicago, and 15 minutes from the Wisconsin borderline. Today's video is, I'm kind of excited about it because I should have done this video years ago, but it's better understanding hook placement when it comes to your live baits when you're going after trophy catfish. It is very important. It's as important as the saying goes, you don't go to a gunfight with a knife. If you're ever in that situation. Hopefully you're never in that situation, but today's video is I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about my number one hook that has, man, blessed me in so many ways. That hook there is the KO hook. I'm not going to discuss brands because, as y'all know, there's millions of brands out there, and everybody has a KO hook, everybody has a circle hook, everybody has a live bait hook, and their hook is the best. But what I am going to tell you and explain to you is I'm going to try to help you better prepare with the right hook and the right placement of this hook when you're using certain live baits. I'm going to name a few, and if I forget some, that's okay. You know what baits you can use in your state and the sizes of baits that you use today. That also can limit your trophy size fish too, if you're not picking the right baits and using the right baits and the right hooks with those baits. But I'm going to just mention a few. When you're targeting flatheads and blue catfish, there's many baits that you can choose from. Number one, everybody says it's the number one bait, and everybody can tell you in their opinion what they think, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it right off the bat. It's the most traditional bait, the most used bait, the most bait that's in almost every water is the bluegill. A lot of people use bluegills for flatheads and blues too. So, but it's the bluegill, the green sunfish, the bullhead, the skipjack, the suckerfish, whether that be a gold suckerfish, a red horse suckerfish, carp, large carps, baby carps, cut carp, cut bluegill, cut shad, skipjack, which is, they say, the cotton candy of blue catfish. You can put a whole skipjack on there if you want. You can cut it up if you want. You'll see in some of my videos where I've went after trophy blue cats where I cut the skipjack in chunks. But the one thing that people make a mistake, and I have people always ask me this, man, how did you catch them? That's their first question. And that question there, you can have a million answers, because it wasn't just line. You took some line and a hook and you threw it out there and you caught the trophy fish. It wasn't just that. There was more to it than how it seems. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you guys better placements for your hooks on live baits. Now, I'm not going to use all these baits. I'm going to use, for example, I'm going to use a bluegill. I'm going to use a green sunfish. You're just going to get the idea of better placement, better options for placement of your hook on these live baits. That's what you're going to get some better ideas. Because the thing is too with fishing is if you just always think traditional and you don't think outside the box, you could be limiting yourself to catching the fish of a lifetime. And to some people, that might mean just a 30-pound blue catfish. You know, most people don't catch a 30-pound blue catfish. Most people don't catch a 20-pound flathead. Most people will never catch a 50-pound, 60-pound, 70-pound flathead. And a lot of the reasons is their tackle. And one of the biggest reasons that I've seen over the years is why I'm making this video is the type of hook that they're using, the size of hook that they're using, the style, let's say style, type, style, and number one reason is the hook placement. They don't understand, they don't do this, they're just like weekend warriors, they fish on the weekends when they can, once a month. But with this video, whether you fish once a month, once a year, 3 times a year, you already go understanding that, hey, you know, this is how Dreaming of Your Next Hook Set does it. And he's caught some big ones. And he's been doing this since the late 90s. The hooks that will be discussed here, it'll be a live bait hook, it'll be a KO hook, and a circle hook. The live bait we're not going to go in depth with. That's a starter hook. I started with those hooks. Then KO hook came in the scene. I had actually seen or been introduced to circle hooks first in Florida. But I thought it was an odd hook and I didn't use it very much. And I didn't understand it. Back then, there wasn't a lot of exposure to hooks. There wasn't a lot of explaining. You went to a store, you bought, just like going to Walmart. They don't have a guy there at Walmart telling you, hey, you should use this hook and you should use this hook and this is the way you use it, you know. A lot of places don't have that. So you have to go and do some research. And, you know, I was young at the time and I figured, you know what, this hook doesn't work. So I threw the hook in the bottom of the bag, the tackle bag, you know, the circle hook. But in the late 90s, early 2000s, I ran into a KO hook. I shouldn't say I ran into a KO hook. Let me correct that. I was in Big Lots. It's a store that we had here in Illinois. It was actually in Beloit, Wisconsin. Big Lots. And they sold this odd hook. It looked weird to me. And it was a KO hook. That's what the package said. It didn't have a brand. It just said KO hook on it. And I wish I had one of those packages today so I could show you. It just said KO hook. So I looked at this hook and once again, just like the circle hook, never had heard of the hook, never knew anything about the hook. It just looked odd. And to me, that caught my attention, going outside the box. That's why I say that. I was always using a traditional J hook. You have to be close quarter combat right there, you know, right there at your rod. Don't turn your back to your rod because your rod will be gone in the water. A lot of people were limited to J hooks. If you went into Kmart, Walmart, you had your traditional 084 hook, the bait, the plain shank, eagle claw. Those were your options. They really didn't have big sizes like your 3/0 and your 4/0 and your 5/0, and they definitely didn't have like those sizes in a bulk, you know. So you were limited to a 1/0, maybe a 2/0 plain shank hook or a 186 type eagle claw hook, which is a live bait hook. They call it the live bait. You were limited to those type of hooks. So you didn't see KO hooks. You didn't see circle hooks at Walmart and stuff. Even up to the late 2000s, or not late 2000, but 2010, 2012, 2010 and 12 was when I first started seeing assortments of live bait hooks, like an assortment box that had live bait hooks, and it had here and there had a couple KO hooks in it, but they were all small range size hooks. They were like 1/0, maybe a 2/0, you know, but it didn't go further than that. It didn't go bigger than that. And then there was the smaller ones, you know, they were just thrown in there. And that's just by looking at them that I'm saying that maybe a 2-aught or a 1-aught or a 2-aught. That's just by looking at them at Walmart. So I had to buy them from Big Lots. But in 2010, I believe in 2010, Big Lots didn't sell any fishing stuff anymore. And they definitely didn't sell any of the hooks anymore. So if any fishing stuff at Big Lots, it went away. I don't know if it was because they didn't make money selling fishing stuff. I don't know, but it went away. So then I had to start, you know, looking online on the internet and looking for these hooks. And I've seen a couple brands, different companies had them. Only a few companies, not like today. Today, oh man, it can be real confusing to anybody. But in this video, I'm going to stick to certain sizes. But the important part of this is the style of hook, not so much the brand. I'll leave that up to you from your trial and error. I will come out with a brand video of some of the top brands that I used on a later day of the brands that I use, but I'm going to stick more to the sizes and the style of hooks, you know, and I'm going to talk mainly more about the Kale hook, because the Kale hook, bar none, is my favorite hook, number one. The Kale hook has caught me all my blue catfish, mostly all of them. Let me not say all my blue catfish. Let me correct that. My PB blue catfish was caught on a Kale hook. My PB flathead, all my PB flatheads, all the way till I got to the heaviest one, it's always been a Kale hook. In the last probably, I would say, I want to say about 7 or 8 years, I've started to use circle hooks here and there. And that'd be a plain circle hook or an octopus circle hook. So in this video, hopefully you guys enjoy this video. I'm going to show you better placement for your hook. I'm going to show you size options so that you can start at least having an idea of what sizes you're targeting, and you can pick the brands that you want, whatever brands you want to go with. But buy small packages or order them online, get them to your house and see, take your bait, your live bait, try them out. Like let's say you get a 7-aught circle hook or Kale hook, get the 7-aught, get the 8-aught in small packages, or get an 8-aught and a 10-aught in small packages of both style hooks, and try them out to see what works for you. And I guarantee you your hookup ratio is just going to be a lot better than sticking to a J hook. Before I leave you, I want to let you know that a circle hook, in my eyes, a circle hook and a Kale hook were designed for the conservation measure. And when I say conservation measure, it can mean one thing to one set of people and another thing to another set of people. So I'll explain both to you guys. The conservation measure, how those hooks help is this. If you're wanting to select harvest, take home, eat it, fry it, whatever, with the Kale hooks, it gives you that option because... Let me pause this video and explain conservation measure in 2 ways. The one way is this. If in your state they have slot limits, fish have to be certain size to keep, and if they're not that certain size, you let them go. This is one way of how the Kale hook and the circle hook lend themselves to that. That if you catch a fish that's undersized, you let them go. If you catch the size that you can keep, you keep it. You know? And that's how it helps. That's one way it helps. The other way is post-mortality. Circle hooks and Kale hooks are designed to hook a fish on the side of the face, the cheek, and very seldom do they hook a fish in the gut, in the intestines, or they swallow the hook all the way down. It's designed when the fish strikes and he moves away, that hook turns and it hooks the side of the face. Circle hooks do the same. Hopefully I've explained what I meant by the conservation measure in 2 ways. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the video. You can unhook this design. Let me slow down a little bit. The Kill hook is designed to when it sets itself. That's what I like about a Kill hook. That once your rod is in the rod holder, in a nice secure rod holder, that Kill hook will set itself. This is years of experience that I have with the Kill hook that I could even walk away, turn my back. Maybe turn the drag a little bit, turn it down a little bit, put it in a nice solid rod holder, and that fish will be on there. He will be hooked. With the circle hook, it's a little bit different. A circle hook, when your rod loads up, you have to reel into it. You don't go grab your pole out the rod holder and set the hook. People claim that you can set the hook on circle hooks, but in my experiences, most of the fish that I tried to set the hook, I lost the opportunity of catching. And I swore to myself that I would not do that again. I would stick to what they say. All you do is when your rod loads up, you turn the handle on your reel as fast as you can, and that hook will set right in the corner of the fish's mouth. And that's how a circle hook works. That'd be an octopus circle hook or a circle hook. So if you understand that already, you already have a head start at catching your trophy catfish. That's right there what I just explained to you guys. Now the only thing you're gonna have to decide is, do you wanna use a circle hook, whether that be circle or octopus circle hook, or do you wanna use a Kill hook? If you're the type of guy like me that I like to walk around, it gets boring at night, I don't wanna sit right there next to my pole all the time. Maybe I wanna watch another pole, or I have maybe 2 or 3 poles set up, or I'm helping somebody. I like a Kill hook because I can loosen up the drag just a little bit, set my medium action, medium light rod in a solid rod holder on the bank. I can walk away from it, and when that rod loads up, that fish is there. That's why I like Kill hooks. Circle hook, if you notice, if you paid attention to what I said, it takes a little bit more work. That rod loads up, you better have seen your rod load up, because the fish might be there, he might not be there. You might lose a chance of a lifetime on a big flathead, big blue, because the way the circle hooks work, in my understanding from my experience, I've used them, is you have to go up to your rod when it's loading up, turn the turn handle, do not set the hook, turn the turn handle, and it'll set itself. It'll start, the fish will go one way, the hook will start pulling out of the fish and catch him right in the corner of the mouth. That's how circle hooks work. That's why I didn't use them when I first was introduced to those circle hooks. I was in Florida and I seen them, and the guy was telling me about them. He didn't explain how do you use them, nothing. He just told me they were great hooks. And I was like, man, how is this hook gonna ever hook a fish? If the point is pointing towards the shank of the hook. So that was real complicated to me. I couldn't understand that. But if you can focus on this, on better placement, whether you use a circle hook or a Kill hook, if you can focus on that and using the proper bait for the proper size hook for the bait that you're using. I'm gonna explain real quick how this process went. I started here with the J hooks. These are called J hooks. And if the eye is bent, it's called an octopus J hook. It's a live bait hook, basically. This is what we use for targeting flatheads. But you see here with this type of hook, the conservation measure is not in there. I remember hooking flatheads in the gut with these all the way down their throat. So when these came in the scene and these came in the scene, it changed the game. I didn't know how to use these, so these are the ones that I told you I threw in the back of my tackle box. But then when I seen this Kill hooks in big lots, of course not these sizes, when I seen the Kill hook in big lots, I was just like intrigued. I was like, what kind of hook is that? So I bought me a package, and we were out in Beloit I went to visit my brother, and we were out fishing, and we were catching bullheads. We weren't using these, but we were catching bullheads. And when the bullheads stopped biting, I believe I cut a bullhead in chunks, and I used my first K.O. hook. I think it was a 1/0 because Big Lots didn't have big sizes. They only had like 1/0, maybe a 2/0, if that. And they were just, the label just said, the packaging just said K.O. hook. It didn't say a brand like Gamakatsu, Eagle Claw. It didn't say none of that. It just said K.O. hooks. So I think they were introducing them. I don't know. And Walmart and Kmart didn't carry them to the 2010, 2012. I'm not exact on that. But from that time at Big Lots, when I started using them that day, it was every channel that night that bit. And I think it was like 6, 7 channels. I never caught so many channels in my life before that, to be honest. You know, every one of them that bit got caught on a K.O. hook. So now I'm going to break down the sizes of K.O. hook. When we're talking trophy catfish, not the channels that I just spoke about, little 2-pounders, 3-pounders, 5-pounders. We're talking about, you know, up there when we're talking, we're going to go ahead and just talk about flatheads and blues when it comes to this part. Because this is your first hook right here. This is a 7/0 hook. 7/0 hook right here. As you guys can see, that's a 7/0 hook. That is an ideal hook when you're trophy catfishing, whether that be flatheads or blues. That is a very nice hook. Now, so you see that they make them different. Here's another one. This is a 5 times strong K.O. hook. I use this a lot for blue catfish because it's a thicker wire. You can see the eye of the hook. Look at the eye. Look at that. Look at the wire thickness. It's still a 7/0, but that goes to show you. Shop around, buy small packages, because every company makes them different. Every company makes a different hook. Now this one specified that it was 5 times strong. It did, but still, I find it that when I look at a 7/0 hook from one company and another one, they're totally different sizes. The design is the same, but it's totally different sizes. Like Gamakatsu's K.O. hook, an 8/0 might be smaller than an 8/0 Eagle Claw or an 8/0 Mustad, you know, so you have to be careful. So moving on, 7/0, 5 times strong, and this is the 9/0. This is the one. This is the one that I love the most for trophy blue cats and trophy flatheads. It gives you a lot of space for big baits, for big chubs live, big bluegills, you know, 7-8 inch bluegills, big sunfish, big suckerfish. If you want to put a big 10-inch suckerfish to target those flatheads, or a nice 10-inch carp, awesome hook right here. Like I said, for bluegills, awesome. This hook here has been, the 7/0 and the 9/0 have been the ones that have caught me my PBs. And I'm telling you, they're very nice hooks, K.O. hooks. And the hookup, like I said, these type of hooks, man, a nice rod holder. You set your rod in your rod holder. Once it sets itself, the K.O. hook. There is no turning the handle, none of that. It sets itself. Just get to your rod, because remember, these are trophy catfish. These are powerful fish. They can yank this hook right out of their mouth if you don't get to your rod. You know, you got some time to get to your rod, but you need to get to it. Set the drag a little, loosen your drag a little bit so it still sets, but they won't break your pole in half, or they won't rip the hook out of their jaw, and you'll get them. Now moving down to the circle hooks. I'm going to explain a few things about these circle hooks here. This is a plain circle hook. See the ones that the eyes ain't bent? These are plain circle hooks. These are octopus circle hooks. These guys right here, those are octopus circle hooks. So here's an example, okay? This hook right here is an 8/0 by a company, right? It's an 8/0. But this hook is also an 8/0. That's also an 8/0. Look at the difference. Look at the difference in the wire. Look at that. That's why I say shop around. And depending on the bait that you use in your state, the bait that you use to target these trophy catfish, flatheads or blues, that's going to determine the size of hook you're going to want to use. That's why I say shop around. Maybe get you an 8/0 in 2 different brands, but small packages so you don't break the bank, you know. But right here, you're looking at it. These 2 are 8/0s. There it is. It's actually inside the other 8/0. And the wire's a lot thinner, okay? So you have to pay attention to these things. So here's 2 8/0s, right? Now moving on to another brand right here. This brand right here, that's a 7/0. And look at this hook, guys. Look at compared to this hook. They're almost identical, except this one's an octopus and that's a circle. And that's a 7/0. Remember, this was an 8/0. That's a 7/0. Now moving on to the big boys. This guy right here is a 10/0. 10/0 octopus circle hook. This is a 10/0 octopus circle hook. Look at that. Look at the difference. Lighter wire, longer shank. So you have to be careful when you're shot. So when you're deciding your hook placement or your bait, think outside the box. I like to say that bluegills, honestly, I'm not going to say it's an overrated bait, but it's not the only bait that can get you those trophy catfish, whether that be a flathead, blue cat, or channel cat. Think outside the box. You know, most baits are taken by the head, live baits. When you put a live bait on your tail hook or your circle hook, it's usually attacked by the head. Most flatheads swallow head first. The traditional way is to hook a bluegill in 2 sections, or a bullhead, carp, whatever, any bait you choose. They usually hook it in the backside, top side, or the bottom side, backside. Let's put it that way, by the anal fin on the bottom. And they claim that that makes the bluegill or sunfish or carp or whatever swim up when you hook it on the bottom by the anal fin. And when you hook it from the top, supposedly it swims up. But my favorite way is right on the shoulders, right above the head, like you're looking at this video right now, what you're seeing here. And I go across in areas that don't have a lot of cover. They don't have a lot of trucks, cars, trees, stumps. I go across the top, just even across. But my favorite way is the mouth and the head. Set your hook up through the bottom of the mouth and out the top of the head of the sucker, the red horse sucker, the carp, the shad, the skipjack, you know, all these other awesome baits. There's so many baits out here, and people limit themselves to bluegills because they're the easiest to catch. And they want to catch a trophy catfish with maybe a 4-inch bluegill, 3-inch bluegill. Those things can happen, but more than likely they won't. You have to get up there in the 8-inch, 9-inch bluegill, 10-inch suckerfish, creek chub, carp. Another way, let me change the subject here a little bit because the video is playing and I want to catch up to the video. When you're fishing heavy cover areas, log infested, you know, debris, trees, stumps, cars, boats, whatever is down there on the bottom of the river, you want to set your tail hook or your circle hook. You want to turn the bait first of all towards you, the face of the bait, the head of the bait pointing towards you. And you want to come in either on the left side or what you prefer, right side, left side, and come in at a 45-degree angle when you're fishing heavy cover areas. I can't stress that enough because you will be rigging up time and time. So many times you'll be losing so many sinkers, hooks, and everything. Also, another key thing to keep in mind is try to downsize on your hook. If your bait, whatever's proper for your bait, try to downsize as much as you can. Whether that be a 7/0, 8/0, even a 9, like a 9/0 is perfect. But for those big baits, 10-inch, 12-inch suckerfish, creek chubs, carps, man, step it up to a 10/0 kale hook, 10/0 circle hook. Here I'm showing you cut bait for flatheads. When you choose your bait for flatheads and you're targeting bigger flatheads, you still have to stick to the big size brim, big size sunfish. You want to get you at least a 6-inch and hook it. Like I said, you can hook it across if you're fishing an area that's more sandy bottom. The rock is not real thick and big. It's not heavy. It's not a heavy cover area. You can go straight across the bait, no problem. But remember these key points. If you're targeting big trophy flatheads, blues, even channels, use a bigger size bait. Give yourself that option. Give yourself that chance of using a bigger size bait. Anything over 6-7 inches, that's when you're targeting trophy stuff. When it comes to channels, 6 inches is great. It's a great bait for 16-pound channels, 25-pound channels, 20-pound channels. It's appropriate size. But remember the key thing: if you're fishing heavy cover areas, don't downsize on your hook. It'll prevent hangups. Right here, I'm showing you a lot of people. I see a lot of people do this on the river. They'll run their circle hook right through the eyes of the bait, or they'll run the circle hook, KO hook right through the eyes of the bait. What happens is you end up with the current. You end up hooking your bait. You end up hooking back into your bait, basically. Now, if you're going to choose the mouth area, do remember this: if you're using a big live bait, creek chubs, carp, I repeat it again, suckerfish, a big size brim, a big bullhead, 8-9-inch bullhead, and you go through the bottom of the mouth and out the head, remember this. This is a key point that you have to keep in mind. If you're fishing heavy current areas where you barely can keep a 5-ounce sinker down, when you go through the head, through the bottom of the mouth and out the head, that water's not going to go through. That water's actually going to go through the gills very fast. And their mouth only opens so much. Even on a big bait, you'll drown out your bait. So I try to use that method from when I use the hook from the bottom of the mouth and out the head, only in slow current areas. Somewhere where I can keep a 5-ounce bait, a 5-ounce sinker down, 4-ounce sinker, 3-ounce. That's when I use that method. When I'm in heavy current, I go straight across the shoulders, what you're seeing right now. Right across the shoulders with a circle hook, kale hook, regardless. I go right across at a 45-degree angle. Here I'm going to show you another thing. I see people doing this too. They're targeting trophy catfish, but they got the wrong size hook. Not necessarily the wrong hook. No, not at all. But the wrong size. So they put out this big chunk of bait right there, which that's an awesome bait right there for big blues. That's an awesome size bait for big blues. I'll do skipjack like that as well. But you use the wrong hook, the wrong size. You want to use a bigger size. I understand that you might be fishing a heavy cover area and you want to keep the hook down size. That's an ideal idea. It's smart. But you have to have some point exposed, the barb exposed, the shank, not the shank, but the barb, the point of the hook, a little bit more exposed. You want to have it that way. That's a perfect way right there. Go up to an 8-aught, 10-aught hook when you're using those big chunks of baits. Also, when you're targeting trophy channels, chunk bait is also a great idea. But you got to use the right hook. I understand heavy cover. I mentioned it as a key point. But placement, Your hook placement is very important. It's actually more important sometimes than the bait you're choosing, because these fish bite all kinds of baits. You guys enjoy. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope I was helpful. Thank you very much. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell for more up and coming videos. Y'all have a nice night. Take it easy. From Dreaming of Your Next Hook Set, I'm Jeff Garcia. Until next time. Hook placement, cut bait placement, live bait placement is very important. Y'all have a nice night.